Welcome back to our headline stage. Our next session is Meet the Innovators, Future Trends of Tech, sponsored by CSA Catapult. Compound Semiconductor Applications, CSA Catapult, was established in 2018 by Innovate UK to help the UK become a global leader in compound semiconductors through collaboration with both large companies and startups to develop and commercialize new applications. CSA Catapult is now the UK's leading authority on compound semiconductor applications and commercialization. So this dynamic panel isn't just about inspiring, it's about turbocharging your ambition and igniting your tech journey. Be captivated by the riveting stories of trailblazing creators who didn't just dream big, but they built their dreams from scratch and are now steering their own tech empires. So don't just imagine your future, meet those who are shaping it firsthand. Chairing this panel is Bruce McLelland, Knowledge Transfer Manager, Emerging Technologies and Industries of Innovate UK. But before Bruce chairs the panel, please welcome to the podium Martin McHugh from Catapult to say a few words. Martin.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction. So, catapults. Catapults exist mainly to help transition technology or research out of university into companies. But we have another mission, which is why this actually sponsoring this event was really important for us, and that is actually to inspire the future generation of young people to actually get into STEM subjects. So we're a Catapult, we're not for profit. That doesn't mean we don't actually build reserves. We do try to build reserves to invest those back in the capability so that we have funds to actually invest in people and our equipment. As was said, we are experts in compound semiconductor applications. We're not necessarily experts in the fabrication of the technology. We're here to kind of create a demand for the market and then actually work with the market to understand where the gaps are in skills and within the supply chain. So some of the things we're doing in skills at the moment would include inspiring our next generation. We have actually employ interns and we have postdoctoral research students as well. So a big part of our remit is actually getting people excited about semiconductors and compound semiconductors. We're headquartered here in Wales. We're part of a fairly influential and important compound semiconductor cluster. So for young people, you don't actually have to move out of the area to be part of an exciting career. There are going to be lots of opportunities, lots of companies to work for in the region and actually in the Western Gateway region as well. So it's really nice for me to be here to support this event. South Wales is a great place to actually do this. It's great for us to hold this event. And my kind of closing thought for you is innovation is innovation. It's not actually tech dependent, it's not time dependent, it's actually dependent on people. People make innovation happen. Hence, we're very important, very keen to inspire the next generation of STEM people. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome our panel to the podium, or to the seats. Bruce, from around the floors. The Catapult's actually been involved in various ways with these two companies. We're quite very impressed by them. Two very different companies, two very different approaches to actually getting their business. Please be inspired by them. Thank you very much.
Many, many thanks. Well, you know what? I can see some really excitable faces in here because this is going to be one of the best sessions you'll have all Wales Tech Week. These are the people driving innovation. And I'm also looking across the crowd there and I can see some young faces there and I'm thinking those are the people that are going to be on this stage in a few years' time. It's good stuff. I've had a crazy career. I've actually started off in one direction and ended up talking to people like Heba and Josh every day. And every day I'll go home going, wow. So working for Innovate UK, that's just what we find. But I started off in sound engineering and ended up as a smart city, connected cities specialist. How does that work? But I'm going to ask now Heba to come and tell us when you were that lad's age over there at school, what were you interested in? And then go on to tell us what you're doing now.
So definitely math was a topic which I really, really enjoyed doing. I didn't like that much physics, but I had to do it. I think as somebody who likes different science, chemistry, I loved chemistry as well. And I think one of the things which I did in university, electronics and computer engineering, because I enjoyed doing the practical part, but as well doing the programming part. One of the things which is really interesting, and I do have a young daughter, today, you have no limit if you really, really would like to do something in terms of programming. And I think programming is similar to math. You need to practice and start from a really young age and trying to build it up. And don't give up on math. Some people find it difficult, but for anything that is in life, you need 10,000 hours to be perfect and professional on something. Enjoy doing it, and even if it's hard, solving the problems, and even in a day-to-day, and trying to tackle little things and equations and solving various things. And we do it during our life every single day, but to do it in math is really rewarding, and you have to keep on at it until you get really good at it.
And what is the name of your company that you built up from that?
So my background, I'm a CPU engineer. By background, I worked in ARM for 9 years and went back to academia to do my PhD, where I spent out Utterbery out of Cambridge University. We are a 10-year-old company. And we were lucky enough, unfortunately enough, to be involved in really major projects like a Crossrail, London Underground, Tideway, and we do export as well to the world. And we've been involved in major infrastructure around the world, not just in the UK. We've been in Wales. Actually, we worked with farmers in Wales. We did on heritage buildings like Raglan. We worked with the transport in Monmouthshire area. And one of the things which is really fascinating, Utterbery does really little small sensors with AI and machine learning built in. They communicate to each other and they feed us data. And the data is informative. It tells us what's happening with that structure in terms of movement, in terms of how we use that environment. And it tells us when we need to react and do anything basically to enhance the system.
Here's a fun fact. So you're talking about infrastructure. Hands up if you've got a mobile phone, smartphone, hands up. I will put money that there is technology designed and implemented by Heba that is in that phone. So from the phones to infrastructure. Josh, you were at school. What were you interested in and where have you got to now?
So I feel somewhat of an imposter. My favourite subjects were history, English and politics.
Nothing wrong with that.
For my sins. So I'm actually a humanities student by background. I was incredibly fortunate really to fall into the industries which I did. Those industries today are known as the semiconductor industry and the space industry. At the end of my degree, which was in politics, Tim Peake, the British astronaut, was selected for his mission to the ISS. That's when I found out the UK even had a space industry. Till that point, I thought you had to be American. I thought there was only NASA. How wrong I was. And I wrote to the CEO of a space company that I found in the UK and begged him for a job interview, and very graciously he gave me one. And that's how I got my first ever job, which was by far my most boring job, which was reading contracts for space missions. But the missions those things were doing were incredible.
But it was space missions. Good stuff. And out of interest, what does your actual company now do? Because I was quite fascinated myself.
So I'm the CEO and co-founder of SpaceForge. SpaceForge really is an advanced materials company, but our edge happens to be that we produce those materials in space. We've developed the world's first returnable and relaunchable satellite platform, the Forge Star, to produce these materials on orbit and then return home to Earth with a technology that is best described as Mary Poppins from space. It is a large deployable umbrella which effectively allows us to float back down from orbit down to the ground. We're 60 people based just outside Cardiff. Last year, we built and launched Wales's first ever satellite, Forge Star 0. We are about 6 weeks away from shipping Forge Star 1 to the launch pad, which is, after this, I'm dashing back to make sure everything on the build and test is performing.
So you're actually making things in space?
Yes.
Who knew? Right, well, and from that, I'm interested in, was there some sort of event or technology emergence or maybe a person that made you think, I really want to go into the space sector when you were starting off as a career?
I think like all kids,
Yeah.
fascinated by space.
Okay.
And then a subset of those kids keep being fascinated, and I was one of them. So, always used to look up at the moon when Dad was driving us home, that sort of thing. Really what turned me into being able to work in this industry was the fact that so many people think space is only engineering, but you need regulators, legislators, lawyers, politicians, everybody involved to actually make these big missions appear and happen. So members of my team worked on the Hubble Space Telescope. They worked on Rosetta and Philae, which landed on a comet. We've done missions to Mars, flybys of Jupiter's icy moons. Collectively across our team, we've supported over 150 different missions into space. And I think part of it is that unknown, but at the same time, every good idea that we have right now about space technology was dreamt in the 60s. And it's only now has the price and the technology actually being realized to make those things happen. Wow. So the first time a semiconductor was made in space was 1974. The first time we returned something from space was 1958. So we've had all of these technologies available to us. It's only now we leverage them all together.
And Heba, budding artist, young at a starting point of a career, but you're now entertaining the idea of £100 million smart factories, perhaps in Wales, who knows? So I'm interested, was there, again, same question, did you meet something, was some world event that said, art's one thing, but then there's also low power sensor production? What happened?
I do enjoy doing art in general, and I think the things is when you look at semiconductor or really cool design in terms of board, a PCB, and some people look at it as boring, but actually is a form of art. Mm-hmm. And you need to, instead of looking at it as in terms of colors and dimension, you're looking at how can I make these really tiny wires communicate to each other in a very neat way that is not getting me to do different things, and designing it in a way, certain amount of data goes in, it reduces power. So you have to think about it in a different way as an art, and a different way than the colors in terms of what you're putting in and what you're getting out of it. So, and it is in itself is an art form. And I think it's engineering in general is very, very, it's touching all our life today. So when people say I'm an engineer, they think you are probably repairing a fridge or a washer machine, but it's actually not limited to washer machine and a fridge and road and construction. It's touching everything in our life. Space, medicine. We are seeing a huge amount of input, especially in AI. And we need to create that AI in here. And when I'm saying here in the UK, we need to build it here, and we need to innovate around it. And I think we need to get the new generation interested to pull out that different artistic point and different expertise into that pool. Okay.
So Josh, and like Heba, you were within an organization, but ultimately now you are an organization, you are your own organization. What was the point where you thought, you know what, I need to set up my own company? What was driving that?
Two reasons. The first and far more profound reason is myself and my co-founder were not happy with the way that the space industry said it contributed to solving climate change. Space is considered the ultimate high ground. You go up to it to take pictures back of Earth. You can point out deforestation. You can point out oil spills. Still need somebody on the ground to go and solve those problems. The two most underutilized aspects of space are its microgravity and its high purity vacuum, which create a much better manufacturing baseline. The second reason is I was really bored. I was in a position where the next youngest person in my team was 23 years older than me, and the next youngest after that was 20 years older than him. And I was literally waiting for this guy to retire so that the other guy got promoted, so that I got promoted. That was 6 years ago. The guy at the top is still there and hasn't retired. And I was in a position where I was like, I could spend the rest of my life at this organization, and I would be fine. But I would look back when I retired, if a retirement age should exist by that point, and wonder what on earth I did with my life. And I took the opportunity to say, now is the time. And I went and spoke with my girlfriend at the time, who's now very importantly my wife. Do you mind if I take some money out of the house deposit? I need to go do this. And we set up in a garage on the outskirts of Bristol with a 3D printer and a vacuum pump. And that was 2018.
Wow, fast moving. So has it unlocked your ability to maneuver around a tech innovation agenda as well? Has that been a power, or are you now more focused on the business and you're letting that be somebody else's task?
So no, very much. So my co-founder, Andrew, he's not here, so I will describe him to you as Elon without the ego.
Yeah.
He is the most phenomenal engineer I've ever had the privilege of working with. And he continues to drive the technology behind SpaceForge every day. And really, I think what the difference is between SpaceForge and other companies sort of operating within our sphere is we tend not to think about innovation at SpaceForge. We tend to think about invention. And the UK has been fantastic at inventing things. Merlin Spitfire engine, radar, all of the IVF, all of these things that have been driven out of the UK, which we have then failed time and time again to successfully commercialize. And we ship it out to the US or somewhere else, and we let them scale it. I think we have a real opportunity today and in Wales to create companies here which can invent and scale those technologies.
Perfect. And talking about dynamic and innovative spearheading company, ARM, you're a critical part of that company, and you've broken out. So what was your drive on setting up your particular operation?
Well, starting embedded trace, then a CPU engineer, then get shipped to California, worked in Bay Area with a lot of larger companies, but I was working as well with a startup, and I've seen a startup, how they succeed, and some of them, how they fail in the US. I think the difference is in environment in the UK and US. US, you know, if you fail isn't bad. In the UK, we actually beat ourselves, and you can't fail, which is that kind of way and tradition you need to kind of shift. And in anything you do in life, even, which is I see it as well with the younger generation, they have to pick their early career at the age of 16. You have to pick your subjects for your GCSE, then your A-levels exams, and which path you are going. But that is not, it's not going to lock you and block you from actually moving to different aspects in life. You could see Josh, he went to humanity, I went to the science section, and we ended up, both of us founders, but in a different aspect. So working for a company, I wanted to change certain things. I always loved building things. And in ARM, we used to design stuff and it get licensed. So we see it at the beginning. So we design certain CPUs and it get used by billions of people, but we don't actually manufacture anything. Where in Utterbery, we do design and manufacture, which is quite different. And Utterbery, it's actually spun out of the Cambridge University because the need at that time for something small that has AI capability that able to predict and monitor infrastructure in a critical constructions and to be able to give us certain warning. So it's a different type of communication. So in ARM, you and I, we can communicate through mobile phone or computer or any email with a CPU. Here, our building can communicate through an Utterbery, and our infrastructure can communicate through a system. And it's very different. And I think it's fascinating how people progress in different paths. So I'm not like Josh, oh, well, I didn't like the way it's been done or whatever. It's just the industry, which is the need of it 10 years ago, that needed that product to come into the market.
Now, I'll come back to you in a minute, Josh, but did you actually see a market opportunity that was going to be hard, but it was going to, but the opportunity was there?
Yes, I think if a Crossrail wasn't there at the time, and the challenges for Crossrail had sealed tunnel, which is needed monitoring. And the things is, which is probably spiked it as well, we don't have, in a city, you can't send people all the time and you get one set of data. You need actually the data 24 hours to make sure Moorgate, Liverpool Street, Barbican, Farringdon to run every single day while that construction is happening and to keep the economy going. That needed to be done in a different way. And I think one thing which is with innovation, you have to actually embrace change and accept change and accepting new technology. Unfortunately, in construction, that is very, very old, and the way it's being taken is not like a Rolls-Royce aircraft where you actually have too many sensors and too many things tells you what's wrong with it. Infrastructure in general is very slow moving, which is we need to change. We do need to change the way it's being done today.
So, Josh, you've looked at what you're doing. You've spied that you can set up on your own. You've identified the risk, but you value that this is going to be worthwhile for you personally, but also as a brilliant career. But you mentioned something that I think is important to note. You said your partner. So your collaborator, your chief engineer, were they with you from the start, from the setup of the company? And was that important?
Yeah, so Andrew brought the technologies that sit behind Spaceforge to me. So he used to lead a team within Thales called Advanced Concepts. They used to come up with the crazy engineering ideas, how to mine an asteroid, how much people would pay if they could play Quidditch on the space station, which was worryingly one of the business cases that closed the fastest. But and it was my job at the time to sell those and pitch those ideas into government bodies, into Ministry of Defence, into international partners. And one day in the pub, he brought to me the technology that sits behind Spaceforge and said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think this is the first thing you've ever brought me I could sell." And he went, "I think so too. Do you want to start a company?" And I mean, you're right to touch on the personal aspects. If I was only doing this to make money, I would have just become a consultant or something. There are other ways to make plenty of money in the UK. What really matters is being able to work on something bigger than yourself. And that, with Spaceforge's mission, has provided me with that opportunity. And I'm very selfish about it.
Perfect. And in your partnership, what's your key skill set that you're bringing to the table?
So what, myself?
Your skill set. What's your key skill set?
My ability to put into a workable language what semiconductors and spacecraft can do. My engineering colleague, Andrew, we are effectively yin and yang. Where his skills end, mine begin. So I do customer relations, investment, that sort of activity, government engagement. He does hardcore engineering, technology development, roadmap, prototyping.
And I bet that's why it works well. Heba, what is your skill? You've got a company, quite a big company now, but what's the key thing that you're bringing to your executive?
Doing things that people don't want to do, probably.
Yeah.
And designing things that people don't want to sometimes design or designing in different ways. So I am an engineer. I'm still involved in patterns and designing things, and my engineering team I do speak with them on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis when we are delivering a project. But as well, I have to speak to our clients, and we don't sell to consumer today. We sell to businesses. So it's basically, we need to work with government, with stakeholders to make sure that they are satisfied with the engineering capability that we are providing to them throughout their projects.
What's the best bit about your job then? Is it about pushing the company forward on that kind of contractual level, or is it going down into the workshop and pulling something apart and looking at the design?
Innovation and doing it in a different way. It's and seeing how you could fix certain problem where people never thought about fixing that way. It's definitely, it's a reward. I think if you, probably I would say something controversial, but if you want, we know people always complain about NHS is broken. If you bring 5 people today, I would assure you that problem, it will be solved in certain time. But these people need to be motivated in a way they will solve it. People who like problem solving, they will solve big issues as long as the path is being opened up for them and facilitate that way to actually tackle a problem in 6 or 8 months. Give them a timeline and set a target.
Yep.
It will be done. And I think in anything, even in space, a lot of people say, oh, well, we can build a wing, but we can build an engine, can we build a wing? And the wings is not being done here. Can we build a whole entire car, or are we still getting? If you actually motivate people and put them together and really people who are innovative from different sector, different expertise, they will get something done as long as challenge. And I think the challenge is one of the things which is really, really, I enjoy being part of in terms of what I do day to day.
Perfect. And Josh, do you get tempted to go down to your colleague, your partner, and go like, do you know what? I think we could do something better here on a tech level. Are you a voice in that decision-making process?
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
So because I am sat at such a ludicrously high level when it comes to these things, I can just occasionally point a solution out, but because they are so into the engineering, they haven't seen. But I would hold my hand up and say that's very, very rare.
Perfect. And from your perspective, it's quite interesting because, I mean, I am a science, technology, engineering, maths ambassador, STEM, and I love going into schools and sort of inspiring the conversation. But you would have been that student that would have been going, do you know what, I've got my line, it could be well into law or anything like that. But are you now looking back and thinking, actually, tech's interesting, tech's a good place to build a career? Would you be an ambassador for a tech career?
Probably I would be now. I mean, so I thought I wanted to be a lawyer when I was at university, and I did a module in law, and I fell asleep in the first seminar. So I knew that I just did not want to be a lawyer. I was sat with my mum in all places at Morrison's Cafe at the end of my degree, and she went, "What are you going to go do for a job?" And at that point I didn't know. And she went, "Well, what do you like doing?" And I went, "I like writing.
Yeah.
I like speaking, and I like eating." And she went, "Well, unless you're going to be a restaurant critic, I suggest you look at 2 of the 3. And that's what sent me down a career path of, well, where do I get to speak? Where do I get to write things? That led me down into government relations, business development, sales. And, never in my life, when I was 15 years old, did I think I'd ever be in a position to say, I run a space company. But today I do. And I think it shows that actually how much your passion matters, no matter where your schooling or education might take you. There's a role and a place for you.
Yeah, true. Can I just add how much we value our legal profession when it comes to intellectual property protection and navigating tax credits, etc. So there's a valuable career there as well. But Heba, I assume that you're one of these people that will go straight in with wave the flag on tech innovation and a career to do that, push that forward.
Oh, 100%.
I guess now I'll be wondering, if you were going to be starting a new company, would it be in a particular different arena on tech innovation?
After starting a company, I don't think I would like to start another company because it's so hard. People think it's easy, it's never easy. I'm married to a lawyer and he enjoys doing law. So, but the thing is, I think definitely I would do exactly the same. I wouldn't change anything. Probably some of picking certain clients. And as a company, we have to say yes and no sometimes to certain clients. Probably that would change in terms of path, but what I've done, I'll probably do it again. Yeah, and I enjoy it. And I think one of the things is rewarding. Like I remember even walking down the tunnels in Crossrail when it was getting built. And as an engineer, it's absolutely fun. Or even being part of designing a CPU that is everybody's using in their mobile phone is definitely, or not just mobile phone, computers, satellites, every single thing. So it's absolutely fascinating. You think I've done something little and I've left a little mark, even nobody sees it, but it's still there. And every single day when you're doing something, I think if it's good for the others and benefits our society in somehow pushing it towards a certain line. And engineering, we need more engineers in a country. And I think AI will use a huge part of our life and it's going to change certain aspects in a legal profession, accounting profession, even in engineering and how we do things. And we need young generation to be part of it. And I think as a STEM ambassador, I think it's very important to get that pull early, not late.
If you're looking back at what you'd studied at A-level, would there be and I know you did focus on the sciences, but was there a topic now you think, oh, if I'd done even better at that, it would have helped me at this part of my career? Is there a particular subject?
So part of math, which is I hated to do, probably stats, and I find stats is probably one of the most critical things for AI. And it does work massively, even in medicine. You take a pool of people that drugs works on 1% of the population, it doesn't work on others, and you've got certain stats. I think stats is very, very important. And as I got older, I had to do more statistics than less stats than before. It's history as well, dealing with a lot of different nations and exporting. You work with different type of people and you wouldn't know, or stuff that has never interested me, like people would report to certain events, which is I wouldn't be able to recall, which is people are influence their decision. So when you decide something is because an event happens rather than something else, and you say, oh, well, this makes sense. They should have done that rather than this. But actually, some kind of event would have happened in that area, unique for this people or that community that made them take that decision than others.
What about you, Josh? Would you fortify the subject at A-level because you could have realised what will happen next?
Well, I mean, I did English language, English literature, history, and politics. I tried sociology for 1 week, which is where I learned I didn't want to move into that kind of field. I wish I'd started economics earlier. So I ended up picking up quite a lot of economics when I got to university and sort of did political economics. But I think understanding where maths diverges from economics is actually an incredibly important skill, whether or not you're looking to found your own company or whether or not you're looking to set yourself up like an investment ISA. Those sorts of skills, I think, should be more holistically taught. And I wish I'd had the opportunity to pick them up sooner.
And I think one of the things I find interesting is going into schools and then asking these students to come out and actually present their ideas. And it's that art of presentation that can such a valuable skill as you go down through a career path. Actually, because your job there is to communicate the the technology capability that you are in charge of. You're there communicating, definitely, positions on where the company needs to be within some big government organisations and that, and on you as well, I just imagine. But it's that art of communication, just being able to put the story across, something that I'm always learning every day. So yeah, exciting careers. Any standout moment, Heba, that was like you had the wow day, that something really amazed you, or you had a major achieved day and went home thinking, wow, this has all been worth it. Any standout occurrences?
The problem is there isn't one particular day, because if you have one particular day, you don't actually aim high enough. So you actually, all the time, as somebody who is running a company, even when you've got a deadline, you've got certain things to achieve, and you've got certain target. As soon as you reach that target, you've got other targets, and you've got other things. So you're always, and I think probably that it's a negative that we don't seize the moment, and we should seize the moment when we do certain things. But as somebody who's trying to achieve in different things, and even my team, we trying to push certain boundaries, there is other boundaries to push.
Yeah.
And as soon as you push that, you've got other parts.
Looking for the next big
Yeah,
thing.
so there isn't one particular, but it's very, very rewarding when you see actually your devices isn't being deployed, and people are using them and having them in, and getting people are interested in it. We work with a lot of in a company for 8 years. We've had a huge number of internships, and every single year we've got a group of internships or people who are doing their masters or PhDs, and it's really I think rewarding when we see they've got something out of it, and they are happy on what they have achieved during that time. And it's kind of not just reward for me, I think the reward for the whole entire team that did be part of it and part of to push that boundaries. But yeah, I wouldn't say there is one day that I can.
Yeah. What about you, Josh? The day that you went to work and went, wow, that was incredible. I'm going to keep going.
Probably the day we got to launch our first mission, because it launched ahead of anything else I'd ever worked on. Now, unfortunately, that mission was on the Virgin Orbit launch out of Cornwall in January, so we also watched it not succeed. The day after, as you might understand, was absolutely horrible. But the emotion and the outpouring from the team made me realize how important what we were doing was, because some of them had only been working with us for 3 or 4 months, and I wasn't the only one crying, which was weirdly quite nice. And then the day after that, everybody was heads down working on the next mission. And I think to see kind of, just to have that roller coaster journey over the course of 3 days, and to see everybody get back on track and start building something 10 times bigger than the last one was actually some of the best days I've ever seen in the company. You're absolutely right. Even when you do have a good day, as a startup founder, the next week's going to be horrible. And then you have another good day, and then the next week's horrible. And that's just it. But importantly, the good days keep increasing, they keep getting higher, and sometimes the lows are lower. But for me, just seeing how Spaceforge started as 2 guys in a garage working on something, and I now get to look back, I think it's so important on occasion just to look back and see how far you've come, and that in itself becomes a very good day.
Perfect. Now, I'll start thinking of some questions in a minute. I'm going to come to you lot very shortly, okay? Especially you, okay? So, the standout technology that's going to enable your business going forward, look at you, Josh, the standout technology that you're keeping an eye on. And then I also want to know, is there another sector that's doing interesting things that you just like to sort of keep an eye on for bedtime reading sort of thing? So your enabling technology.
Is probably our incredibly highly efficient CVD reactor, which is how we produce semiconductors in space efficiently within the confines of how little energy you can get into a satellite.
Okay.
Alongside the re-entry technology, which actually allows us to bring that back. It's all very complicated.
I must admit, I saw a SpaceX launch, and when that thing came back, I just called it witchcraft, to be honest. It was just incredible. Yeah. To me, it was amazing.
It's old news.
But is there another sector that you're thinking, oh, that's just interesting? They're up to interesting stuff?
To be honest, probably farming.
Farming, yeah.
I think the innovation and the invention in agriculture over the past 10 years has been phenomenal. Now, I grew up in Somerset, so I'm very used to being surrounded by farms. And to me, there isn't a problem that can't be fixed with WD-40 or duct tape. It's one or the other, and that goes for spacecraft sometimes. But the way in which farmers have embraced invention, artificial intelligence, predictive harvesting, the way that they're able to spot pesticides and sort of invasive crop species far earlier today, which then improves the things that we eat. It means that they're more plentiful. It means that they're cheaper, and we can continue to afford fresh food. I think is vitally important. And alongside climate change, I worry about food security for the future. So just as a personal aside, I guess that would be a sector that interests me.
And one of the driving techs there is obviously space observation data, which clearly you're contributing to, which is brilliant. Thank you. Technology that's enabling your business that you're keeping an eye on, and what just fascinates you in another sector?
Well, funny enough, we are involved in farming, but I think energy definitely, yeah. So energy, batteries. I think batteries in general, although people are investing huge amount of R&D in batteries, but I think we are looking in the wrong place, or wrong material. Ooh. So that is definitely, I think we need to do things differently around energy.
Is it around storage or generation?
Both definitely in both. And I think that needs to be changed, even the way we store energy, the material around the energy, and how can we recycle them. And we have to think about it as a whole, as a whole cycle rather than an isolated part. So we see lithium batteries currently with cobalt and other materials. They are very poisonous. The recycling of it very hard. So definitely the stages hasn't been thought out in a way that we can be sustainable, even with the current technology that we have. It's still finite, very limited amount of material in the world for it. To extract it, we need a huge amount of water, which is not sustainable. So I don't think it's there is an answer of a good or a bad yet in terms of that. I mean, we need to invest more around how in the coming, not just years and centuries, how can we utilize the energy and how we going to store the energy and focus where that shift is, because it's very important for all our life. All of us, we use energy every day.
Well, this part of the UK, this part of Wales, we've got to keep an eye on that hydrogen economy. I was astonished at what's going on here with the hydrogen gateway. And it's a whole different topic, that. We're not. Yeah. Anyway, so I hope that's provided some sort of insight as to how you can be starting off on a career. You can see that the way things go beyond university can put you into a really interesting alignment. And then from there, it could go in all sorts of directions. And then you can end up running your own company and sitting on a stage as an innovator. And I just wondered if there's any clarification questions from the audience that you'd like to put here to Heba and Josh. That has been. Anybody got any thoughts on that one? Yes. I'm glad. It's a young innovator. Stand up, sir, and be counted. These are the people we want to see coming on the stage the next few years. What's the question?
So this could be to both of you. When allocating funds, do you focus on your employees or your actual projects themselves?
So when looking at finance, are you looking at investing in technology or the people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm going to start off with Heba. You've got quite a good team. When it comes to finance, are you investing in people or technology as a priority?
Definitely the people, because we take young people and we train them for a very long time, to be honest, hopefully that will reward us in the years to come and the way they do things. And we don't look at finance in a traditional way. So as a company, we've been profitable through just revenue from projects. That is different than most of the startups. I think 99.999 in a startup. So they start with the idea. We actually start with people. So definitely we invest more in people.
Josh?
Same for us, really. We're an incredibly IP-rich company. All of our ideas come from our people. If we don't protect, if we don't develop them, we don't have ideas and we don't stay relevant.
Can I just get an idea of the size of the companies now in terms of headcount? Josh?
60.
60.
We're just shy of 50.
50. Right, so a considerable team. And the most important asset is your fellow colleagues, yeah?
Oh, definitely the people.
Good question. Thank you very much for that. Is there any other questions from the floor? It could be around the sectors. Yes, the lady over there.
Thanks. I think it leads on, obviously, from having these young people so critical to us, to the left-hand side of me. I should give you some background. So I'm the Strategic Director for the National Training Federation of Wales. I advocate for apprenticeships in Wales and apprenticeship providers. But I'm also the Vice Chair of the Cardiff Capital Regional Skills Partnership, where we're looking at skills needs, skills innovation, etc., all of this diversification and wonderful technology to support economic growth in Wales. My question leads similarly to young people and their development and opportunities that your companies could offer them. So rather than, and Josh, particularly you, talked about this and perhaps the ageing workforce and lack of opportunity for you, are there opportunities within your companies for apprenticeships? Because we not only have the foundation apprenticeships, but of course we have higher and degree apprenticeships now. So, rather than going down perhaps the academic route, there could be opportunities for these innovative young people to join you through apprenticeship route. So I was just curious as to know if that's something you already do or if that's something you would consider for the future.
Josh, apprenticeships.
So we're looking at setting up our apprentice scheme next year. It's called the Foundry. One of our manufacturing engineers, Jordan, is going to be running it. Until he joined us, he was managing a team of 25 at Rolls-Royce, and he came up through their apprenticeship program. I'll have to double check, but until quite recently, the average age of a space forger was 26, which sounds incredibly young compared to the rest of the space industry. That was the average age of the team that built, launched, and successfully recovered Apollo 11. So age is certainly not a barrier. I'm soon going to be 31, so I'm bringing the average age up now. But we very much see the opportunity within that. So, as I say, hoping to bring it online next year.
Utterbery, on the apprenticeship schemes, is that something you're looking at?
We actually have apprenticeship scheme and it's running, and we accept it from age of 16. So if you're just interested in programming and games, come and join us. And I would love to speak with you after, if that's possible. And the lady who runs it, her name is Phoebe Richards.
So apprenticeships, definitely a way of fueling more energy into the system to push out the boundary of innovation and capability of a company. So a very valuable program. Do we have any postgraduates in the room, I wonder, that's still at university? Yeah? Okay, so you might have, within your university, looked at things like knowledge transfer partnerships, where we're getting your brains into the industrial need to push forward the capability. So, yeah, I'm available afterwards if you want to talk about KTPs. But it's not about me, it's about you. We need more questions. Any further questions to our panel? There's the gentleman at the back there.
Sure, of course. This question is for Josh about SpaceForge, but it's not about education or the industry. It's specifically about that company. Is that okay? Question about SpaceForge?
Yeah, sure, please.
Sure. So I know that right now the focus, like the satellite that unfortunately was destroyed in the rocket you mentioned, that was going to be a space-based factory of sorts to produce a crystalline material for semiconductors.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm curious what other types of materials or products, if you're allowed to speak about it, what other types of products or materials does SpaceForge plan on or intend to build in space other than crystalline structures for semiconductors?
Yeah, The reason we focused on a reactor payload approach was because that itself was compatible to about 14 other material classes. Semiconductors is one vertical within that. It is a vertical we are very excited about and will continue to exploit, but we've had interests in lithium replacements, in carbon nanotubes, in photovoltaics. There are opportunities for ceramics, for alloying, for pharmaceuticals, even for 3D printing of organs. So we kind of stopped counting when we got to 42 as a number, because it just, after that point, we were like, okay, there is enough for us to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any more? Because and it's definitely going to be a good one because it's come from our young innovators there. Look at that team, young innovators. Question, please.
This is mainly to Josh.
To Josh.
You talked about how your technology could be used in farming, and I actually own like a pretty small farm. But obviously satellites are pretty expensive, so how approachable is your technology for a smaller farm?
So I also grew up on a farm, and until quite recently, my brother was a farmer, but he didn't like the early morning, so he became a chef, traded it for the late nights. The barrier to utilizing satellites for farming used to exist because farmers used to think they had to buy a whole satellite. All you need to buy is the data and intelligence that comes from it. Some of that is made free by the European Space Agency, which we're still part of. It's not part of the European Union. And all of that data and intelligence is abundant. Now, it depends what you farm as to the value of it. If you're doing carrots, you need it as cheap as possible. If you've got livestock, you can afford a bit more depending on what you're doing. But the data is out there, and companies exist which already pool that for farmers' use so that they can point out things like blight or crabgrass or whatever it is that you're worried about. That comes to the price point of about maybe 50p to £5 a hectare.
There you go. Can I just do a quick round of applause to stand up and actually ask questions at a national conference like this? So, quick round of applause to our young innovators. Thanks. I'd also like to thank our panelists, Josh and Heba. Brilliant. Thanks very much for bringing those insights in. A great opportunity from the catapults and our national centres, but particularly, obviously, our compound semiconductor catapult to bringing this to life. And I think we'd better get off the stage, otherwise the chairman gets criticised for bad timekeeping. So we've got to go. Oh, no, we're going to stay here, aren't we? Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you.
And thank you to you, Bruce, for chairing that dynamic panel. Excellent conversation. And of course, huge thanks to Martin and CSA Catapult for sponsoring that session. Okay, we're going to be back at 1 p.m. with a session called Your Future Made Better. Bruce mentioned STEM quite a few times then, and we're going to look at STEM not just as a subject, but as possibly the key to unlocking your future potential. Okay, so hopefully we'll see you back here at 1 p.m. For now, though, again, to Josh, Heba, and to Bruce, thank you very much.